Hello, so today I'm going to show a little bit what we've been doing this week, the first week of the holidays, and I'm going to share two different thoughts that I've been thinking about. Good job. Well done.
No, yes, no, yes, no.
Joseph made a catapult. Go, Joe. Ooh. Is the window broken?
No.
This is what this has been making. I think it's a castle, right?
Yeah.
With a dinosaur. This is what Hannah's been doing recently.
I don't want.
This is what Joseph's been making, which is a broken down castle, right?
Yeah.
This is Esther's vehicle collection. We took Lydia's light bulb out because she would turn it on at all hours of the night and early in the morning. So we get ready for bed using a torch. And it is way too much fun. Hey Lydia, is it funny?
This Hala is a habit. Hala,
Oh, what about this one?
oh dear. Hala sat on the mat. Where that is fat. Where hat is red.
Well done.
No.
So one verse is the verse, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy mind. So when I've thought about this verse before, I think I've only thought about that verse as in thinking right thoughts and not thinking wrong thoughts. But I read a devotion which challenged my thinking a little bit, and it was on that verse, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy mind. And it was about loving learning. And it said that loving God with all thy mind can mean like using our mind. So loving God with our mind as in using our mind and learning more. So learning more about God, but learning more about the world that God has made. And there is so much that we can learn. And that just challenged my thinking because I'd never thought of that verse in that way before, as in using our mind to learn. But yeah, with preschool, one way that it has changed me is that it has given me a love for learning, because every term we do have a theme that we learn about, and it's given me a lot of inspiration for writing. So that is a challenge for you, to love God with all your mind, but not just as in thinking right thoughts, but as in learning more, using your mind for learning. And so it's a holiday challenge. I've given my kids a holiday challenge of learning about somebody they don't know much about. So Esther's been learning this week about Isabel Kuhn, a missionary to China. So I actually found a video of a lady sharing the story of Isabel Kuhn for children. I think it was with the Children Evangelism Fellowship or something like that. So Joseph and Hannah still need to learn about somebody, but it's good to challenge ourselves to learn, even in the holidays. Also, one quote that I wrote down for the devotional was, loving God with all your mind requires maximizing your mind by learning as much as possible about as much as possible. Another thing is, it's reconciling yourself with the reality that God is not an object of comprehension as much as he is a source of wonder. And that sacred sense of wonder ignites a holy curiosity to keep learning more about the Creator and his creation. So, the other thing is, like, we talk about God being like there's nothing too hard for God. But what I've been thinking about is there's also nothing too small for God. So, like, for God, nothing is kind of hard or too hard, but it's the same with small things. So if you think of the 5 loaves and 2 fish, that was something so small that boy had to give. And yet to God, it wasn't small. Or like the widow with her 2 mites, that was something so small she gave, and yet to Jesus it wasn't small, it was actually big, because she gave all that she had. And actually, why I started thinking about this was on Sunday we had a sermon about Achan. So Achan stole something, and it affected the whole, all of the Israelites. They lost the battle, and it was because of one man had stolen something. So that seemed that God had told them don't take. So he was disobeying God, and that kind of brought a curse on all the Israelites. But it was something so small, or that seemed so small, and yet to God there is no small things, no small disobedience. When we disobey, it's disobedience. And it's the same as when we do obey. But I just found an encouragement that there's nothing small with God. And yet we categorize things. We think, oh, that's really hard, or that's too big, or that's too little, or that's too unimportant, or that's too insignificant. And there's lots more examples. There's that little pot of oil that widow had. And when the prophet asked her what she had, because she had all that debt she had to pay, she said, oh, I've just got a little jar of oil. And he said, well, use that. And God used that little pot of oil and made it enough to fill all those jars so she could go and sell it all, and then she had enough money. And there was the widow of Zarephath. She had just a little bit of flour and a little bit of oil, and yet it was enough. In God's hands, yeah, he could make it go a very long way. There was Gideon's little army. There was Jonathan with his 2 sharp swords. There's a lost sheep, something so little, yet the shepherd, it wasn't little to the shepherd. And there's that parable of the talents. So there were 3 different people who got given talents to use, to put to good use. The 2 of them did, but the one who was just given 1 talent, he just wasted it. He just hid it and buried it. What he was given was small, and yet to his master it wasn't small. He was expected to use it and to put it to use. Sometimes with small things we don't think much of because they're just small, but to God there's nothing small. And Eve eating just one little bit of fruit that seemed small, and yet it was a big thing. And children are small, and yet they're not unimportant to God. They're just as important as anybody else. So nothing's too big or too small to pray about. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much, and he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. And also the verse, whatsoever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men, for of the Lord you'll receive the reward. So whatever we have to do, whether it's little, whether it's big, and also with the big things too, like nothing's too big for God. If you think of Mary, she had that expensive ointment. To other people that seemed too big, too expensive, too much to give, and yet Jesus was pleased with her. So God doesn't have a too hard basket, but he also doesn't have a too small basket. And that's an encouraging thought to me.